Well, hi everyone. As you know on this channel, I do a lot of videos about major bridge projects throughout the world. And today I want to cover the Crimea Bridge, the Kerch Bridge, or the bridge over the Kerch Strait in Ukraine, part of Crimea that was annexed by Russia in 2014. Bridges are very important to society, but particular bridges can have major geopolitical importance, such as this bridge. So let's just go through it. This bridge was built between 2014 and 2018, and obviously it's been a target of Ukraine attacks during the offensive that was launched by Russia, and the Ukrainians have been quite successful. They've essentially taken this bridge out of service, starting with an initial attack in October 2022. So I'm going to go through what attacks have been made on this bridge, what's being done apparently by the Russians to mitigate this damage. Also go over the particular structural aspects of this bridge that lent itself to having such widespread damage through strategic targeting of this bridge. So this is the longest bridge in Europe. I just used the measuring tool in Google Maps. So it's 17 kilometers or a little over 11 miles in overall length. This is the general location. The Kerch Strait leads into the Black Sea from the Sea of Azov. Now let's just look at a Google Earth view of the area. So the bridge has multiple bridges overall. It's got a railroad bridge and a road bridge. Railroad bridge is 11.25 miles in length, and the road bridge is 10.5 miles in length. Water depth through the area is relatively shallow at 30 feet. The longest span is 645 feet long, and the below deck clearance is 115 feet. So there's 4 vehicle lanes and 2 railroad tracks. The only other time there was a bridge across this strait was in 1944 to 1945. The Russians built a railway bridge, and it was short-lived. It was damaged by ice before construction could be completed, and then the Soviets dismantled what had been placed up to that time to create an open strait again up until the time of the Russian invasion of Crimea in 2014. Now, I'm still learning the intricacies of Google Maps and Google Earth. And for Google Maps, of course, they have Street View, but there's not continuous coverage across the bridge. You just have these individual photos that have been uploaded to Google. There's one of those images. Another view. So this is a screenshot from a news report that points out that this bridge is the only link between Crimea and Russia. The bridge is used or was used to supply Crimea with military supplies, fuel, other goods. It's a major supply route for Russian forces. As I mentioned, it's the longest bridge in Europe, and as I also mentioned, carries both road and rail traffic. There's been at least 3 attacks that we know of on this bridge, 2 of which were confirmed to be successful. The first was on October 8th, 2022. That involved a truck bomb. I'll go over that in more detail. And then another attack occurred in July of 2023, and that was with an unmanned drone boat that was loaded with explosives, apparently. So we can see the amount of extensive damage that these attacks have done. This is the aftermath of that truck bomb in October 2022. The truck bomb exploded and blasted a hole through the bridge deck, which caused the collapse of adjacent spans, and then a fire of the passing train. See, they're trying to extinguish the fire. I want to show you this video. This is of the October 2022 attack. Massive explosion. Took several spans down into the water. Of course, the fire burned for a significant length of time. Here's a view of some of the aftermath following the fire. So no doubt, extensive damage to the bridge. Just see some other images here of the damage. Here's the before and after shot of this bridge in 2022, and that's just a summary of these unmanned surface vehicles, these USVs, that reportedly was used in the July 2023 attack. And these images are from that time in July 2023. You can see the amount of damage that was done here. So let's get into some of the technical aspects of how this bridge became damaged from these attacks. And I'll post a link in the description to this new civil engineer article. But they talk about the construction details, talk about a composite slab deck that was supported by nearly 10-foot deep steel plate girders, across the span between the concrete piers. And I'll read this quote here. An important detail in understanding the extent of the damage to the bridge with 3 visibly collapsed spans is that these are not individual 64-meter sections. Instead, the spans are grouped together in sets of 4, formed from a continuous beam which passes over the tops of the piers. This professor added that the continuous nature of the beams means that when the explosion caused the deck to fail and collapse into the water, it pulled on the entirety of the beam and the bridge deck from both sides downwards with it. So the professor speculates that the explosion was sized and shaped in such a way to cause the complete failure of the bridge deck as the truck passed that location and the bomb detonated. This created 2 new cantilevered sections of the deck which could not support their own weight and buckled over their supports. As these sections of deck fell into the water, potentially also provided with significant additional momentum from the explosive loading, they will have pulled on the surviving spans on either side. Between each beam there are gaps where expansion joints are inserted to allow the surface to expand and contract depending on the weather. The tensile and flexural load could therefore not pass through the expansion joints, causing the ends of the 4-span beam to be displaced towards the damaged area, Barr explained. This wrenched the deck away from the bearings, causing a failure across 4 spans. While 1 span remained atop its piers, the other 3 collapsed into the water. Just another view of that damage from the October 8th, 2022 blast. Now, where have we heard mention of continuous beams? That would be with the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, Maryland. Of course, that bridge was taken out March 26, 2024 through a collision of the cargo ship Dolly. Let's play this little video segment real quick. It struck a bridge pier, and because of the nature of the design for the superstructure, these elements shared loads across multiple locations. So there was not a way for the bridge to remain upright or to have more than one section fail. So we see in this Wikipedia entry, the Francis Scott Key Bridge was built as a steel arch continuous through truss bridge that spanned the lower Patapsco River. So again, there was no way for just an individual span to collapse without it taking other spans with it, much the same way that occurred with this Crimea Bridge. Now, there was reportedly another attack that was launched in August of 2024 utilizing these ATACMS missiles. These are manufactured by Lockheed, and these were supplied to Ukraine. Shows a launch of one of these missiles. So this missile is a long-range guided missile that gives commanders the immediate firepower to shape the battle space, according to the Lockheed website. So it has a 500-pound class blast fragmentation warhead, a maximum range of 300 kilometers or 180 miles. This acronym stands for the Army Tactical Missile System, ATACMS. I believe that's how that's pronounced. Just another view of one of these missiles being launched. Now, Ukraine's successful attacks against this bridge in Crimea has had major impacts to the military operation of the Russians. In fact, it's largely not been in use for over a year now. And then there's been news stories recently about Russia building unknown structures near the Crimean Bridge, according to the Ukraine Navy. Here's an excerpt from a news article. According to UK intelligence assessment, it had already begun constructing barriers consisting of floating and sunken barges, anti-submarine USV nets, naval mines, barrels linked with cables, and smoke generators to mask the view of the bridge, alongside increased numbers of air defense systems in the fall of 2023. So these defense systems were supposedly in place prior to this August 2024 attack and were successful in eliminating these missiles before they could strike the bridge, according to Russian reports. So this is a satellite view of what they are constructing here. And to me, it just looks like they're putting in 2 parallel bridges. You can see that they've got some pile driving. They're driving piles to support bents that'll support spans for the bridge. You can see over here an approach that's consisting of placed fill, compacted fill. Then you have these barriers out in the water that are offset from this new structure that they're building to ostensibly provide protection. Reportedly, this is one of these anti-USV roughs, as is termed here, about to be deployed to the Crimean Bridge. And I think this is a set of roughs that I've circled here in red. At least that's what it appears to me from the satellite image. So I'm no military expert, but it seems to me, just in a broad sense, that Ukraine's position in this war relative to Russia has improved as a result of them taking this bridge out. So now the Russians are fully committed to restoring traffic to this area. It looks like a new bridge on either side of this existing bridge, presumably to carry truck traffic. I don't see any indication that these new bridges could support rail traffic. So it'll remain to be seen how successful Ukraine will be in the future in executing additional successful attacks against this bridge. Although it does seem that they're less likely to get a drone submarine or boat loaded with explosives to hit the bridge. So I suspect a lot of these attacks are going forward, if not all of the attacks, will be using these missiles. You know, Ukraine between 2022 and 2023 seemed to strategically wait a period of time after the first attack to where Russia expended resources trying to restore this bridge, and then they took it out again. So I think it's quite an interesting strategic situation for both sides here. At this point, I want to send a shout out to the channel members. I really appreciate your ongoing support, as well as those of you who have provided super thanks. I'm going to roll credits at the end. Since this is a military themed video, I thought I'd mention, and I only talk about books that I've actually read, but I'll just show this book. I don't know if it'll focus because it's by my face. I'll just put a picture of it up here. It's Storm of Steel by Ernst Junger. It's the classic memoir of World War I combat. And I'll put a link in the description in case any of you are interested in checking it out. I've read a variety of books about military history, and World War I, World War II, particularly fascinating to me. And what's interesting about this book is not only does it describe trench warfare in great detail, but the prose is almost poetic. I mean, this guy was a German soldier, and he wrote really well. I mean, it's very interesting. A lot of imagery with his words. And the thing that I really thought was interesting is he thrived during World War I in this trench warfare. So it just shows you how adaptable humans can be. And, you know, took a horrific experience and essentially made the best of it. I mean, I guess I'm simplifying things here greatly, but anyway, if you want to check that out, please do so. And please stay tuned for future videos.